What's happening, everybody? Corey Raymond here, your host of the Wisconsin Investor Podcast. And today, you guys are stuck with me on another solo episode. Before I get into that today, guys, I wanted to give you guys a little shout out from Wisconsin Discount Properties. I say this on a lot of the episodes, but if you aren't familiar with it or this is your first episode, if you're looking for off market deals, we put deals out in your inbox every single week at 6 a.m. And you can go out to our website, wisconsindiscountproperties.com, put your information in, and get added to our buyers list for free. No cost to get on there. And we'll start sending those to you. Another thing I've talked about on a few of the episodes, but for my YouTube watchers here, I actually have our website today pulled up on the screen share, and I've been talking about these case studies. So on our website, you can see these case studies here that I'm looking at right now. This is what I was describing to you guys on a few of them. We have a $5,700 difference between what these 50 different flips have sold for compared to what our ARV was that we put out in our emails. And so Reese from our team spent a lot of time putting this data together. And with the help of a lot of you guys as our buyers out there who provided some of the data or some of the public data that we got, and went back through and looked from February of 2024 up until May of 2025. We did not put any exclusions in this. So that means some people just bought these properties, cleaned them and listed them. They did not take them to after repair value. They just cleaned and listed them and made their spread that way. And so that would bring our actual ARV down even further. So what we're putting out, guys, the whole point of that is what we're putting out to you guys. We feel is pretty conservative on our ARVs, and you can be confident when you look at our ARVs. It's not perfect. Look through the list. We put it all out there, the good, bad, and the ugly. Some of them were less, some of them were more. And again, some of them that are less are just because people didn't take it to the full after repair value. So anyway, you can check that out on our website. We've got a bunch of other resources on there. So if you go to investor relations or resources, we've got a lender list. We've got our BRRRR for beginner course, which we're giving away for free now, and a whole bunch of other information on there to be a resource for you. So go check it out when you got some time, wisconsindiscountproperties.com. And with that, guys, today, let's get into today's episode. So I am about to leave here shortly from the time I'm recording this, and I am heading over to meet my lender who's going to refinance me out of a duplex that we bought. And so I wanted to do just a deal breakdown for you guys, take you through some of the numbers and show you guys a BRRRR deal that was put out here in Green Bay that I actually ended up picking up back in January. I think we closed on this thing. And so here we are now into September. We're finally refinancing this thing. So a little longer than I would have liked, but we had some tenants in there. We had to get the tenants out. And then we had to rehab the units. Then we're in the refinance process. So I'm going to take you guys through everything I can on this deal. Hopefully this will provide you some insights from, how we found the deal to, the numbers, to what the numbers look like on the back end. And what I'll tell you guys is when I ran my calculator here based off the actual numbers that we're projecting now that we have our loan payment amount that we're going to have to make, we're only projecting to make $23 per month per door. So for those of you out there that love the BRRRR like me, you understand this is not a get rich quick game, right? The BRRRR strategy is a big time wealth building strategy. But as we said, I think the last episode that just was out was with Jimmy Vreeland, who's a BRRRR key investor, as he calls it. And we talked about keeping that cash machine and making sure if you're out there listening to this and you want to do the BRRRR strategy, don't quit your day job right now if you've got something spitting off cash, because these things are typically not high cash flow properties. But I'll explain to you guys why, for me, I think this is still a great deal. And if you're a cash flow investor, probably not a great deal for you right now. But again, how you look at cash flow may be a little bit different than the way I look at it. All right, so I'm going to take you guys through. Those of you guys that are watching this on YouTube, I'm also trying something different with Zoom right now. This is kind of cool. I'm like superimposed in front of the screen, which I've never done this before. So I'll take you guys through how we got this deal. So first of all, the acquisition strategy on this particular deal. This was acquired through texting. And so we recently we've gotten rid of most of our texting stuff. I believe back in April or something like that, we said no more texting. And there's a lot of laws and rules and compliance and things like that that you've got to be careful of if you're going to be out texting for deals. But this was one that came in through texting. So we had a list. I don't know exactly what the list was. I didn't have that data, but we were our VA at the time was texting people looking for people who are interested in possibly selling their property, and this is one that came up. And so this was the email that we sent out to the buyers list. So you'll see here, if you guys are looking at this on YouTube, we had a starting bid of 149.9. All right, it's a 4-bed, 2-bath, so 2 beds each. There's actually like a 3rd bedroom in here. We don't really call it a 3rd bedroom, but we probably could market this lower unit as a 3rd bedroom. All utilities are split. So this is actually really helpful for us in the cash flow piece of this. We would be negative cash flow if the utilities were not split. I did budget a little bit in here for utilities, so it probably is a little bit more because I actually need to ask my property manager if we're paying water or not. I typically, even if we are not paying water, I typically still budget for water. Water, at least here in Wisconsin, is one of the things that will follow the property, not the user. And so electric and gas will stay with the individual. So if that person doesn't pay and they vacate your property or you have to evict them, that bill sticks with that person. Now, water, if they vacate, don't pay the bill, you're still stuck with it if you're the landlord. So I still typically budget for water, even if the tenants are paying it. So here's what this looked like. Now, if I click into this, this will bring us up to a new screen. And so we had a third-party property inspection. We had comparables. We had the property info, a rento meter. So we'll see how we did on the rento meter too, because I have not checked this out recently. But we're going to take a look at that. Now, we did have an ARV of 240 on here. So I've got a pretty interesting situation where we'll talk about what our ARV actually came back at and then what happened there. So that was kind of interesting. Now in here, okay, the rental meter average of 1150 for 2 bedrooms in that area. We're getting I think we're getting 995 right now. So we're in that lower percentile. I believe part of that probably has to do with the utilities. So if the utilities weren't split, we would probably be up in this 1100, 1150 range. So we might be losing a little bit that way, but I typically, if I can get the utilities split, I love doing that. It's a better situation in most cases to do that. So this rental meter was a little high compared to what we're currently getting. Okay, not saying that they're wrong. Maybe we're just smart. Maybe we accepted too low. All right, let's take a look. We're going to go through the inspection report here real quick. And again, if you're listening to this, I'll just describe as much as I can here. So heating wise, see, these are some of the big issues. This is typically what I'm looking for when I look at an inspection report. Heating wise, it says the boiler was amateurishly, which I don't know if that's a real word, installed. The boiler is supported by a wood frame platform, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. Basically, have the boiler looked at is one of the things. And then the upper unit was heated by 2 space heaters, so not probably ideal. So we had to replace those. And then electrical, there was quite a few double tap breakers, which if you're new to investing, you see an inspection report and doesn't have double tap breakers, good Lord, that's probably somebody already had to fix that, but that's in a ton of panels. I mean, it's almost just, you can expect to get that back on an inspection report. So a little bit of electrical. Front porch was missing a mounting block, some little things, nothing really crazy here. And then windows, most of the windows, peeling paint, that sort of stuff, poor condition, need to be maintained or repaired. I actually don't even know if we did that or not. I should have probably looked that up a little bit when I was preparing for this, but I did not look at that. And then some maintenance items down here, baseboard heating units, got to replace worn and damaged flooring, scraping paint, all that kind of stuff. So it was cosmetically pretty rough too inside there. I mean, not bad though. Little sag going on in the main beam on this thing structurally. Again, I don't necessarily worry too much about that. It can be supported usually pretty easily. Sometimes that scares people away. Again, it's a rental property too, so something to think about here. So you'll see he's got all the pictures of this thing. If you're watching this, so there was quite a few things that could be done to this thing if you really wanted to. So we'll go into now We had the comparables. Okay, we don't need to go into that. I'm going to take you guys over to the numbers on this thing. Okay. So we ended up buying the property from WDP for 152 818, I believe was the number here. So we're looking at a balance sheet right now. Improvements, we put 39,000 into this thing. That was right about what we were budgeting, about 40 grand. So we came in pretty good right there. Now there's probably still a few other odds and ends things that maybe will trickle in here or there, but so far so good. So our total cost and improvements on this thing is just under 192, which is pretty incredible. All right. And I'll explain why here in a minute. So liabilities, this is just showing how we finance the thing. So what I did with this is shows here that we use Johnson Financial Group. So I have a home equity line of credit that I use for a lot of purchases. So quote unquote cash purchases. And then I also have a cash value life insurance policy. And so I use the combination of those two things. I use some things, our line of credit was extended out to some hard money loans we were doing for some investors. And so we had a little bit left on that. And so we used that piece. And then we pulled the cash value from our life insurance to use that as well. So we'll probably have somebody on in an episode or two, maybe down the road, talking about life insurance. And I don't know if we'll get into the cash value piece and how you can utilize some cool tools like that for your investing, but also provide you with some other stability and other things. But that was the combination. So that's what you're seeing here. It only shows a $43,000 loan. I actually have to have the bookkeeper update that to be the entire amount here that we use, because that's what we funded this whole thing with. All right. And then the how we funded the improvements, actually, just because we have so many other rentals with this management company, they're able to basically fund the improvements for us in a lot of cases. And because they're collecting rents on all these other properties, we just don't get a payout then, which, cash flow wise, we need to budget for that with the rental properties. Again, this is why having a cash machine like Jimmy talked about in the last episode is so important, because we don't necessarily need or rely on the management company giving us an actual payout on those. And they just are basically taking all the rents that they're collecting and then utilizing that to fund these improvements. So that was the combination of our funds and then the management company covering a lot of the improvement costs. All right. And then what we're looking at down here, guys, again, total all in, actually on the asset side of things, total all in, just like I said, just under 192. All right. So now when we look at this, I want to go over to, I don't know if I have the appraisal. I should look up the appraisal here quick. But our first appraisal, I'll just talk about it here. First appraisal came in at one, I think, or what was it, 210. Okay, so our ARV on this thing was 240, and I felt pretty confident. I thought maybe that was even a little low compared to what we've been seeing. And our first appraisal came in at 210. So I used my good friend over at ChatGPT, and I went and pulled my own comps again. And I pulled 6 different comps, and uploaded the appraisal, and I uploaded my comps to ChatGPT. And I said, hey, Chat, go through the appraisal and then go through our comps and come up with a email we can send to the appraiser for a rebuttal, and make it nice and polite and everything else, but justify why we feel like our appraised value on this appraisal is much lower than it should be. And I had to tweak it a little bit. It kept kind of picking up actually like things that the appraiser, nice things about the properties the appraiser picked, like highlights of those. And I was like, no, we want to focus on the nice things about the comps that I pulled. And so it was great. It actually went through and analyzed them all. It was like, oh, looking at all the data, you've actually pulled comps that are closer and more similar to the subject property than what the appraiser did. Now, it didn't say that when it said, here's your email to send back to the appraiser, but it highlighted some things for me. So I was like, okay, cool. I know I did my job here of pulling those. I sent that email, and I don't have the appraiser's info, so you have to send it to your banker. So I sent it back to the banker along with my comps and justifying why I felt like we needed a rebuttal. And the banker called me like within an hour and was like, hey, thank you so much for all this information. This is so done, so put together so nicely. I'll send it over, no guarantees, but I think you make a good case here on why you should at least take a look at it. And so a week later, I got a call from him, and he's like, "Hey, just want to give you an update. I heard from the banker or the appraiser. He's looking at it, but the vibe I got, I wouldn't expect him to change anything." And I was like, "All right, well, we tried. It's all we can really do now. What we could do, those options. So for those of you out there that are doing this strategy, your option at that point, okay, is I didn't have like a hard money loan coming due or anything, so I have time, right? I can just push this thing out. I can get another appraiser. I can do different things. Now, some banks are going to say, no, we're not going to get a different appraiser at this point. This is our appraisal. We got to go with this. Our loan committee is not going to go for anything different. Okay, that's fine. I can just go to another lender. So for those of you guys that are in our BRRRR for Beginners course, you know that I'm a big fan of having multiple buckets of money, right? And within each bucket of money, having multiple options if you can. So commercial lenders, community banks, we're blessed here in Wisconsin. We have a lot of great community banks. However, some people, one of the mistakes I see they make is they just rely on one community bank. They love that relationship. They're loyal people. God bless them. That's awesome. But my advice would be you are a business person. So a business person doesn't mean you can't be loyal. There's a lot of things there that there's loyalty that goes into a lot of different things where you'll build relationships with these lenders. However, in this case, you would have a justified reason for using a different lender, right? So if you needed that appraisal to come in higher and the bank was not you send in your nice rebuttal, appraiser's not willing to change it. You've got time on your side a little bit here. You can go to one of your other commercial lenders and basically do the same process all over again. Okay. Now you're going to delay things a little bit because now they got to order a new appraisal. There's no guarantee that new appraisal is going to come in higher, right? You also would want to let them know if this other appraiser is the one that gets selected, because they usually have to do it through a system. They can't pick the appraiser a lot of times. They have to do it through like a third party who picks an appraiser. But you would have to let them know, hey, if that appraiser comes up, we're not going to move forward, because what's the point? You already paid for an appraisal from that guy. He won't rebuttal it. So you need a different appraisal company. But you could go shop that to a different lender and try to get a better appraisal, a more in line appraisal with what you need that number to come back at. Okay. Luckily for us, the outcome of this story is a good one, right? We have a positive outcome. This doesn't happen all the time. I don't know that I've won a ton of these against appraisers, but the guy came back at $240,000, exactly what our ARV was. So gave me even more confidence in our team. Hey, our team's doing a great job on these ARVs. It was really, when I looked at the appraisal, I was a little bit shocked because when I ran my comps, the guy did use like the 3 lowest comps possible. And a lot of those weren't really updated. Rents weren't even comparable. They were getting lower than my rents, and they weren't split utilities. So I pointed a lot of those things out in my rebuttal as well. And so that probably helped, but it doesn't happen all the time. So just be prepared. That is the risk of doing the BRRRR strategy. If you need that number to come in, where that number comes in. But here's the magic of this, guys. So the appraisal came in at 240. 80% of 240 is $192,000. So today I am going to meet the lender. I'm going to sign my loan docs, and he's going to hand me a cashier's check for $192,000, guys. And so if you look at, if you're watching this on YouTube, I still have the balance sheet up. Building costs 152,818, improvements 39,000, puts me just under all in at 192. Now, there's some other costs that I don't think are showing up on here a little bit. Like there's probably a little bit of closing costs maybe or whatever. I don't exactly know what goes all into what the bookkeeper's got on here. Regardless, we're going to have little to no money into this deal, right? So now I will take you guys over to the calculator here. So this is a BRRRR calculator. And again, this is part of the course, the BRRRR for Beginners course that you get when you sign up for that. And so here's what we have laid out here, guys. We start out with only changing the numbers in yellow. So on here, the ARV, $240,000. That's what we came up with on our appraisal. And this is what I would have ran prior to the offers being due, right? It's 240,000. That means my 80% of that ARV, 192. Now, why I have 80% in there is because that's what a lot of the community banks will lend up to. They'll lend up to 80% of that value. All right. And then my repairs, 39,000. We saw that in the balance sheet. So Those are my costs. I put $3,000 in here for loan closing costs. I had a pretty high, like they charged me a pretty good penny on the appraisal, I think. Or maybe that was appraisal and closing costs. It was like $2,500, but just just for fun, I just put 3,000 in here. So my max allowable offer, what I could be all in at to have all my money back out of this thing is $150,000. Okay. Now, like I said, when we looked at those numbers, I'm probably a little bit over being able to get all of my money back out, but I might be into it for a couple $1,000s, right? Pretty awesome. Okay. Um, the other thing to think about here, guys, on the top part of this, what we're showing the difference between 240 and actually, if I just go back here, so $240,000 minus $192,000. If my math is correct, that's about $48,000. So just by purchasing a property, having the management company go in there, do all the work, rehab it, get it rented, and then refinancing that thing within, 9-ish, probably 8 months is really what we're looking at here. We created $45,000 or $48,000 of equity by doing that. And I have maybe 5 hours into this deal total from the time I put the offer in, making some calls to get the financing done and get the cash value loan, life insurance policy, to starting the refinance process, to now I got to drive 30 minutes to meet the banker. Oh no, terrible deal. Got to go do that. Creating $48,000, guys. So I always say this. I don't know if I've said it in a while on the podcast, but really, if you're a BRRRR investor, you've got your main gig going on. It's paying the bills and spitting off extra cash and all that sort of stuff. When it comes to real estate investing, this can be pretty simple. It's like just really focusing on two activities. Once you've got a good management company in place, it's find deals and find money. That's it. That's all you got to focus on, right? Again, I'm a little biased at Wisconsin Discount Properties. We send you the deals every week, but there's certainly other wholesalers in our market and across Wisconsin. There's deals on the MLS. There's all kinds of things that you can do. I know some people, they hire a virtual assistant from overseas. They have them look at deals for like 4 hours a day. These people make like $7 to $8 an hour, and they're paid as like a 1099 contractor, so you don't have to worry about payroll tax or setting up a payroll system or anything. You can literally just pay them through PayPal or Venmo or whatever they have over there. And they can go through and analyze deals on the MLS for you, like literally all day long. Just teach them this BRRRR calculator and stick them. Tell them what you're looking for, what areas, and have them go do that. So there's deals all over the place, guys, but finding deals, then you got to find money, right? And there's all different kinds of buckets of money to find. And then like I did, I used a couple different pieces here. I used the cash value life insurance and a line of credit. Those two pieces together. Now I'm refinancing with a commercial lender of mine. So those are the two options that you can utilize. All right. Now, when we look down at the cash flow analysis, so this is the other piece of it, right? You got to figure out what's your tolerance on cash flow and what's your goal. So for me, my goal right now is build assets, get equity, build assets, build the net worth. Okay. I need these things to break even at least every year on the cash flow thing, right? And hopefully interest rates will come down at some point. I'll refinance a bunch of them and that cash flow number will go up, or we'll get a combination of rents up and that, and it'll be juiced even further. Okay. But what we're looking at, our rent right now, we're at $19.90. Okay. That's what we're getting, $9.95 per unit. Again, like I said, we might be a little low on that. So next year, hopefully we're going to be able to bump that and get that up even higher. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. This is a little bit of an estimate. It's pretty close. Our payment today is going to be $1,250 for the principal and interest to the lender. And our taxes, I figured out, were just under $200 a month, I think, is what it's coming out to. And our insurance, I estimated about $100 a month. I'd have to actually go get the quote. It might be less than that, but we'll figure a little conservatively at that number. Okay, management, for a lot of people, you're going to budget 10%. For us, we get a little bit of a deal. We've got a volume thing going on, so we're at about 7% management. Vacancy here, I budgeted 3%, so we're looking at $59.70. Utilities, like I said, I think I talked about this earlier. Water, even if they pay for it, I'm still going to budget like $75 a month for water, but heat and gas and electric are covered by the tenants. So this is just probably a little bit of padding here for me of the $75 a month. CapEx, we recommend 3 to 10% people budget for capital expenditures. I budgeted on the low end of this because we did a lot of that work. So that's one of the beautiful things when you guys buy a property that's a big project, like it's going to need one of everything. That scares a lot of people away. To me, I look at those as a great opportunity to keep your future expenses way down. So if you have to go in and you got to replace a lot of things, you got to fix the roof or put a new roof on, you got to do new windows, water heaters, furnaces, cosmetic, everything. Beautiful part about that is if you can make that work in your burn numbers up front and it'll still cash flow a little bit, you're not going to have a lot of unexpected expenses in the future, right? Or things that you really have to budget for replacing a ton in the future. You should still always budget for capital expenditures, but you can keep your capital expenditure budget lower, right? And the same thing for maintenance. Now we kept that on a little bit of a lower side because we did a lot of the upfront work to it. Should be lower maintenance. Obviously, it's going to depend on tenant quality there, but we've kept that on the lower side. All right. So now what we're looking at here, our total monthly expenses are $1944. For those of you guys listening, to remind you, our total rent here is $1990. So our total cash flow is $46 a month. Woo. There we go. We'll go buy a couple pizzas and celebrate every month. There we go. Per door, that comes down to $23 a door that we're netting, putting in our pocket. So again, this is not a get rich quick thing. We're not going to be feeding the Raymond kids off of the cash flow of this property. That is for darn sure. But I'll tell you what's beautiful about this is in a few years, this thing is going to be worth, probably 275, 280. And our debt will be down lower, not a ton. I think we're on a 30 year on this thing. So we'll probably owe, call it 185 at some point. And then if we want to refinance, we could pull some cash flow at that point, tax free. That's a beautiful thing about these. Or we can just let it ride and let the thing keep appreciating and let the tenants keep paying that debt down. It's an awesome vehicle here, guys. It's one of the reasons I love the BRRRR strategy. It's one of the reasons I love real estate investing. It's really tough to go buy $48,000 of equity in the stock market right now for a couple $1,000s, right? Really tough to do that, especially something that's going to typically appreciate 4 to 5% a year. And you're going to get some debt pay down every year. You're going to get some tax benefits in here. There's a lot of other things to love about what we do here in the real estate investing space. So that is my deal breakdown for you guys on this episode. I hope that this was valuable for you guys. I would love some feedback on this episode. If you guys like the deal breakdowns, I can do a bunch more of these for you guys in the future of different types of deals. We can talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly here. This one, obviously, for me is a winner. Again, I'm not looking to need the cash flow from this thing, so it works out great. I've got a couple grand maybe stuck into this thing at the end of the day. That'll all be paid back in the net cash flow here that's coming in. Well, actually, it'll take me a while to get that cash flow back at $46 a month, but we'll get that money paid back. It'll be an infinite return on investment at some point in the future here, but the tax benefits alone for me are worth every penny of it. And again, the equity is the big piece of this one that we love about it. So again, hopefully it's helpful, guys. If you got some value out of this, I say this on every episode, do yourself a favor, share this episode on your socials. It tells people you're into real estate investing. You're going to attract more deals. You're going to attract more money. Those are the two big things you got to be focused on if you're wanting to build your net worth here. And again, I would love some feedback on this. So shoot me a message. You can message me on Facebook is probably the easiest way to message me. I don't really go on Facebook, but I have Facebook Messenger, and that'll come directly to me. So that's just my name, Corey Raymond. You can find me on there. Shoot me a message and just give me some feedback, good, bad, or ugly, what we can do to bring more value to you guys as the audience out here. We're always looking to improve. Again, if you haven't shared, if you haven't rated and reviewed us yet either, please do that as well. That always helps us continue to help us get the message out there to more and more people, which is our goal here. And hopefully we're bringing value for you guys out there. All right. With that, guys, we will see you on the next episode.